Hello to whoever's watching this. Greetings from Krakow, Poland. I'm currently doing a little traveling after the Barcelona trip, but that does not mean I've forgotten how amazing the trip to Barcelona was. So going into it, I really didn't know what to expect. It was my first time traveling ever. I mean, I had gone a few states away from California, but this was my first time internationally traveling. I didn't even have my passport before this, so it was definitely an interesting experience to get going. But once I got there, wow, that's really all I can say is how amazing it was. So looking at some of the questions, so something that I learned about myself is that I am actually fully capable of living by myself, and that's something that I always thought was true, but I didn't know if it was. I still live at home, and I've never lived with a roommate before, so I didn't really know what it was like to have that whole house dynamic with another person. But I really enjoyed having Matt as a bunkmate. He was really clean. We got along. We agreed on a lot of things. And if we did have like really small conflicts, which there weren't many, it was like really easy to solve. Which I actually think kind of goes into part of what this class, how it was implemented with being in Barcelona. When there was those little conflict things, we kind of were able to work things out, kind of how we talked about in class. And a lot of other things from the class was how to communicate with other people. I think that was a really important thing. And also working in groups. Obviously, we had to do our scavenger hunt, and that was a lot of stress. It was a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but it was a lot of stress. And I think like being able to manage that internal stress, like we've talked about in class, is something that really came in handy. So the culture in Barcelona was way different. Personally, myself at home, I don't really experience a lot of cultural things. I'm personally religious, but my family isn't, so religion and culture doesn't really have a huge part in my family. We don't have, and where I'm from in Hanford, there's a lot of Portuguese and Hispanics, and we're neither, so we don't really partake in those like cultural aspects of the town we live in. But I think being in Barcelona really helped me realize that I take a lot of things for granted in what culture I do experience in my everyday life. It's totally different in Barcelona. It's totally different throughout the whole world, and I think that Americans, we really take a lot of things for granted. And I think a lot of people need to travel to be able to really appreciate the things that we do have in America. So one way that I think that being in Barcelona and traveling can help me in my future is I'm a sports marketing major, so I think that working with other countries to promote American sports is something that's huge. I really love the National Basketball Association, and it's slowly starting to become global, and it's slowly starting to work its way to Europe and up north and down south. And I love that about the sport. I took a marketing class. It was 150, my sports marketing class, and we talked about how Jeremy Lin had a huge impact across the nation, even though he was in an American sport. And I think that was really cool. And I think marketing to other countries is something that is in the future for sports and something that I'd definitely be interested in doing. And lastly, what advice would I give to people doing this trip? Biggest thing is plan your trip. Make sure you know what you want to do on a day-to-day basis. You can go with the flow, super easy, and that's kind of how I was at first. But I wanted to make sure I hit those key points like the Sagrada Familia, the Montjuic Castle, the Tibidabo Church up top. I wanted to make sure I did those things, and I wanted to make sure I had time to do those things and plan it out. Also, make sure you learn the metro system early because you're going to be using it a lot. One of the biggest things, don't stay out just because curfew is 2 a.m. I know that it seems cool that you can go out super late, but you need your sleep, especially when class is early and you want to get up early for breakfast. I was always the first person awake for breakfast. Ask anybody. I was always the first one there because I got up early, got some fresh air, and got some food. Buy a lot of water. I drink a lot of water personally, and I had to buy so much. And let me just tell you, carrying water up those hills is going to be insanely difficult, so prepare your calves. Expect to do laundry. I was not expecting to do laundry, but I had to do like 3 or 4 different loads, which was pretty bad, but definitely necessary because you do sweat a lot. As far as the class, make sure you do take notes. Don't just think like, oh, I'm not really doing class. I do take notes. It is really important stuff. I really enjoyed a lot of the videos and a lot of the discussions we had in class because a lot of it was really interesting and a lot of it is important, and a lot of people think management is easy and it's like self-explanatory, but it's really not. It really is a science, and it takes a lot of understanding to really be able to get the most out of it. And speaking of getting the most out of everything, every little thing you experience, every food you eat, every encounter you have with a person, every sight you see, really don't just like glance by it, like really take a moment to just soak it in and realize how different it is from what we know and love. whether it be the people on the beaches coming up trying to sell you sangria mojitos or the guys coming in your face when you walk into every store. Take it all for granted and just love it all. So in conclusion, I would say that I definitely recommend this trip to anybody. It was the time of my life. 2 weeks was the perfect amount of time to be able to do everything I wanted. I absolutely loved it, and I would definitely do this trip again. Thanks for watching, guys.